Hey everyone, Omri here. Welcome to another video. It's good to see you. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm glad to be here, and I hope you are too. Today I wanted to talk to you about coming back to yoga from an injury. You know, people look at my practice and think, oh, he's been practicing forever, things have always been so easy for him, probably super flexible from the beginning. I have news for you. First of all, there was the time before my injury. The time before my injury, yes, things were a little easier for me. They were never easy, they were difficult. But I don't want to focus on that time. I want to focus on the time after the injury. So, about a couple of years ago, I got injured doing some homework. Not homework from the teacher, but home work on the basement. I was lifting some heavy things, and I honestly still don't know what exactly was the injury because I didn't get an MRI. But I do know that for about a year and a half, things were so painful, I would have a hard time getting out of bed. It was so hard. I had to stop practicing for a while. Yes, you heard correctly. I had to stop practicing for a while because every time I did, it was just so excruciatingly painful and uneasy, and it was not fun. And I love the practice. Before my injury, oh my God, I used to practice every single day. Well, there was one huge takeaway from my injury, even before I get into anything else. As a teacher, until you get injured, there is no way you can understand what people with injuries go through. I know because I used to tell people with injuries, it's okay, just try to work harder. There is no work harder. There is work smarter, which I will get into in a second. But let me tell you, until I got injured, I did not realize how difficult it is to get back into the practice. When things hurt, it's so harder to move, so much harder to move, to bend, to get the kind of movement that you want. And you have to be very smart and strategic about how you come back to the practice. Now, what I'm about to tell you is based on my own experience, and it might not be true for everybody, but being a yoga teacher for about 10 years now, seeing people with injuries, without injuries, and experiencing myself, I can tell you. There is a way back. You can practice. Obviously, if the doctor says you shouldn't be practicing yoga, then don't. But what you need to focus on is a couple of things. First, the pain is going to be a challenge on its own. And dealing with pain can be very difficult. It can be very demoralizing. It could just feel like things are Herculean, huge mountains to climb when it comes to even basic movements. So you have to practice much slower. You may not even be able to go to regular yoga classes for a while. You might just be able to take very simple sequences with the guide of a teacher, or you can even look up online some movements that feel good. Stick to what feels good and stay away from movements that make things worse. Now that sounds intuitive. It sounds like things everybody would go trend towards, drift towards, gravitate towards. But in reality, what happens is there's a movement that's not going to be good for you, and you go there anyway. Why? Because it's part of the sequence, and you just kind of hope that, okay, 7 out of the 10 postures worked well for me. The last 3, I'm sure, will be fine too. And what happens is they're not fine. They make the whole 7 other postures feel terrible as well because you're finishing with a few postures that just make everything so much worse. You get demoralized. You feel like you're not making any progress, that it's not worth it. Your practice with an injury has to be highly modified to serve your needs. You have to think of it as PT. The movements that you're doing are not there anymore to see how far you can kick or how high you can kick or how deep you can go. It's about finding what reinforces the right direction of healing and stopping or preventing work that goes in the opposite direction. If a certain move exacerbates the pain, it is not a move to do. You have to stay away from that move. You have to modify. And when it comes to modifying, the best thing is to reach out to a yoga teacher, a friend. Everybody knows a yoga teacher these days. And you know what? If you want to reach out to me, reach out to me. Leave a comment below. I'll gladly respond. We can talk about it. I can tell you from my experience how I came back. Here's the bottom line for me. I came back to 99.5% of the practice from zero, meaning I could not practice. And when I mean I could not practice, I tried. I even remember one time, this was pre-pandemic, I went to class, I went into a standing bow, I came out of the standing bow and the pain was so severe, I froze and I thought I was going to fall on my knees and I just couldn't move. It was so terrible, it really was not a pleasant experience. So what do I do? What did I do to fix my injury? Well, I went to see a lot of different specialists, some medical specialists, some more natural homeopathic specialists. And the one thing, and just because it was right for me, absolutely doesn't mean it was right for you. And I want to say here, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. This is what worked for me as a professional yoga teacher. I went to see a chiropractor. And for some reason, from all the people that I saw, a couple, 2, 3, 4 sessions with him gave me a little bit of space so I can do the work myself and start practicing again. Very simple, very easy, and slowly let go of whatever was happening. The other thing that I had to do is, because the injury was lingering for so long, I asked a doctor friend of mine to give me a prescription for an anti-inflammatory, but something much serious, an SAID, non-steroid anti-inflammatory. And it was really amazing what that did. It took away a lot of the pain, majority of the pain. I mean, it was a 7-day course of medication. By the end of it, by the 7th day, I felt phenomenal. I even went on a hike and it just felt so good. Now, mind you, when I stopped that, the pain came back after a couple of days, but it was a lot less severe. So that's something to consider. I spoke to spine surgeons. It just happened to be spine. They're surgeons, they're students of mine. I spoke to doctors. I spoke to a lot of people about these injuries. And some of the doctors even said that with pain, it's really hard to find. Sometimes it's really hard to determine where it's coming from, what's causing it. So I definitely went through a lot of ups and downs, but the good news is I came back. I came back to the practice and it was incredibly hard work. It took so much perseverance. It took so much trying again and again and again. I remember at first I could do 5 minutes, 10 minutes of yoga, and I'm used to doing 3 hours. 5-10 minutes was enough for me. I felt out of shape. Oh my God, I felt heavy. I felt like I gained so much weight. I said that the other day, that I felt like I was overweight, and somebody reacted and said, "Oh, look at you, you're so skinny. What are you talking about?" You know, everything is relative. And I still carry some of that weight with me from when I was injured. And I can feel the difference. It's heavier. It's harder to move. I have less space to twist into, to move into. So yes, my practice looks good now, but let me tell you, incredibly difficult work to get back. I had to kind of make an agreement with myself to focus on the positive, to believe that I can find the way back, and to not give up on it. There were a couple of days that were just very difficult to deal with, where I kind of told myself, is my yoga career over? Will I ever be able to practice again? And now when I say it, I remember people in my class, injured people, trying to do postures and almost crying. And now I understand what they were going through. It is painful. So 2 big takeaways from this little pep talk. 1, you can't sometimes control when injury happens. You have to go with the flow. Obviously, when you do get injured, you got to make sure it's taken care of. You got to talk to the right people. You have to take care of it and make sure it heals. That absolutely doesn't mean that you won't eventually be able to go to yoga. And if you find a good teacher, someone that's knowledgeable and has experience, they might even be able to be very insightful and helpful into help getting you back. So that's very important to do. First, take care of yourself. Second, keep the faith that you can get back. Understand that coming back from something like this is a long road. It's painful. It's arduous. It requires a lot of patience and a lot of self-love. You have to embrace the fact that whatever that was before the practice, it may come back, it may not. That's part of letting go. It's part of acceptance. But at the end of the day, you might be able to get back, and it might be just as good. Patience and understanding. And who knows? You might surprise yourself. You might be able to do things you couldn't before in a different way. And I've found that as well. So some things, like I used to backbend like crazy, super, super deep. I can't do even close. Maybe I'm at 50-60% of where it was. But then there's other things I'm working on because of it, like strengthening my core, that suddenly I find that I can do a lot more. And I love it. It's an opportunity. Everything is an opportunity. And I hope you see it like that as well. I hope you embrace the empathy in this, the acceptance in this, and let go of whatever it is that you don't need in order to come back into the practice. I believe in you. I believe it's possible. So thank you for listening. As always, I appreciate your time. If you like this channel, please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the little bell icon to get notified when I release my videos. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear them below. I'd love to hear what you're going through, and if there's any way I can help, I'll be glad to. Don't forget to check out my Instagram at Omridoesyoga, my Facebook page, my website www.omridoesyoga.com, and I will see you again very soon. Have a wonderful week, everybody.